All right, so go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your story, and what got you interested into the work that you're doing now.
Happy to answer. So, as the CEO of College Ready, I have had the opportunity of helping well over 2,500 students navigate how to get into college and how to graduate without debt. And it all started with my firstborn. He came home from eighth grade and he says, Mom, I know exactly what I want to do after high school. And I'm like, you haven't even started high school. He goes, I know, Mom. But the high school lady, she came into my classroom, said we needed to pick classes. And so I just decided I'm going to be a brain surgeon. I'm going to go to one of those Ivy things, and will you help me? And that's how College Ready got started. And so I now have the opportunity, all four of mine have gotten in and out of college completely debt free. And my first got into Harvard, and that was how College Ready started. Everybody's like, wait a minute, how did you do that? And that's when we got really serious about offering this opportunity for others.
Yeah, I seen on your kind of like your snapshot resume or whatever. It's super impressive for you and your family. Your kids are doing great. You're doing great. And I kind of think as a parent and leading in your own life, because again, my platform is for coaches, leadership, mentorship, because I went from, having my kids and being in the military and then coaching. And I coached bodybuilding, powerlifting, baseball, more recently, youth baseball. So just leadership is in every forum, and I don't think people really realize that. Everyone's a leader in their own lives at some bit, no matter if they feel like it or not. So I think that's a parent's, not necessarily on the CEO level, but as a parent, the success of your children, it's their work and they did it. But also, you kind of take that too, is like their failures are yours, because responsibility is a curse, but it's a blessing. So they fail and it's on you. But if they succeed, then you kind of like, oh, it's because of me too.
Yes, there's been moments in time that I like to take credit, and then there's other times where I'm like, it was my idea, but he did the work or she did the work. And so I was just interviewed on Damon John's Next Level CEO, and he talks about leadership, and he interviewed me to talk about how I became a CEO and what was my journey like. And it all actually started as being a softball player for the USA. And so my journey as a leader started as an athlete. And so I tell students all the time the things that they're doing as an athlete will really roll nicely into adulthood. And so I never realized it until that interview how pinpointed that was. I was the catcher. And so what does a catcher do on a team? They lead the team. And so
Right.
it was a beautiful way that he got to that without me realizing that that's really where it started.
Yeah, and that's something actually I go through with my kids a lot is like it doesn't matter what sport or what business or what company, the same principles will make you successful. So I talk a lot about, at least to my kids and the people that know me, I talk a lot about I'm looking less for qualifications and more for characteristics. And if I can find the right characteristics, I can give you any job. I can put you in any company. I can give you any responsibility. And because of who you are as a human, you will succeed. And it's the characteristics, right? So if I'm looking at like hiring or whatever, because I own a company that builds commercial gyms, and then I also own a few gyms myself. So it's just that has just what you just said, like the athlete development is, the number one thing you get into military, it's the same thing. It's like the number one thing that the characteristics you build on the captain of a team are the same characteristics that you're going to need to be successful in college, that you're going to need to be successful in your career, and just kind of as a family member and a human in general. Like, so going into that, what would you say would help? What helped you and your experience and with your kids and how successful you've been in helping others? What are the things that help people stand out, or young athletes and students stand out from the crowd, given more than just like I got good grades and I maybe volunteered a couple times?
So that's an important point. And since every student is uniquely different, it has to be approached as such. But I will tell you one thing that is the common denominator is each student needs to be themselves. For some
Yeah.
reason, this generation just wants to check a bunch of boxes. I did my community service, I did my leadership, I did my extracurriculars, and colleges are not interested in checking boxes, nor are employers. So I often tell families, we're preparing for life. College is a stepping stone to get there. We're not saying everybody has to go to college, but it's one way to get there. And if you look at it as we're just adulting and we're practicing adulting and we're failing forward adulting and we're doing all of the things that adult in a safe environment where your parents can be there and support you and pick you up and teach you the life lessons. I think that's one thing that athletes really learn the value of is I've never met an athlete who's never failed. I really haven't.
Right.
And
Right.
so what does that mean? They learn that just because you lose a game doesn't mean that you give up on the game. And that's the same thing in life. So trying to help students be genuinely themselves, and it's okay that you're not perfect, but if you stick to your story, if you stick to your passions, if you stick to your advocacy, if you stick to genuinely what's inside of you, that's what colleges, that's what employers, that's what coaches are looking for. And it just feels right. It's more genuine instead of trying to be somebody that social media is telling you everybody else is, because it's really
Right.
not a realistic place to start.
Yeah, I think that's super insightful, super good advice. It's really hard, especially when you see. I think it's because generational speaking, everything is a competition, good or bad. It just is. So when we're looking at the youth and in schools, I think a lot of the schools kind of taught me, when I was kind of coming up was like, what are you going to do to be competitive against this or that or this? And instead of like thinking about what are my talents, what can I bring to the table, everything turned into like this green light of if you follow this path, you'll be fine. And then it was randomly one day, everyone was like, we don't really care about that anymore. And I think that, like I think that was really good advice. Just kind of like you just said, just to sum it up, be original.
Mhm.
And you'd be hard pressed to find anyone in the world that's just like you.
Oh,
And if so, it's maybe one person.
I don't,
Like
yeah, I don't think any of us think alike. That's
right.
one thing that sets us, we may find a look alike or somebody who looks similar
Yeah.
to us, but I've never had somebody think just like I think.
Yeah.
And I think I know that's what colleges are looking for. I know that's what employers, I mean, I'm an employer. I've started 7 businesses. I also am a coach and a mentor. And what I know all the way through is that we are looking for people to make our life better.
Yeah.
And those that can make our life better are going to get opportunities. Those that do
Right.
minimum are not going to get the same opportunity. That's the mindset of an athlete.
Yeah, and that's military wise. I had a podcast with a buddy of mine. I retired. I'm a retired combat veteran. He's active duty, but he was a combat veteran as well. And we kind of talked about the standard, and we got into the standard is the bare minimum. This is like to even be able to sit at this table, you need to have these attributes,
Mhm.
and that's not the goal. That's the bare minimum to even be able to play. You have to be able to run a 5.5 40. You have to be able to throw the ball this hard. You have to be able to. So those are not like the goal. And I think often, and it's almost in college as well. A lot of the students, athletes, kids, parents, they get so wrapped up in, and I have kids, so it's just my thought too. They get wrapped up in like, how do we get you there? And then I call it service after the sale. Getting you there is just the beginning. We're just getting you ready. Getting a degree and graduating is the first step of like now you're able to be in the room. You are not the subject matter expert. You have like using the knowledge that you built and putting it into real world scenario is wisdom. But knowledge without the ability to use it is just kind of knowing facts randomly. So it's I try to remember and I try to think about the standard is the bare minimum. And that kind of always just getting there. Yeah, that's a super important stepping stone. And what you do is kind of 2 or 3 echelons past that, right? Like, hey, how do we get you there? But not only get you there, how do we get you there with ease? And then how do we take care of your finances? And how do we make sure you're not ripping your hair out every day and freaking out because you're forward planning
Mhm.
when everyone else is kind of pre planning, but they're not really looking at post enrollment.
Mhm.
They're just looking at getting there. Like it's now I'm done. Getting there is the beginning.
Yes. And when you graduate, nobody just hands you this career and says, here you
Right.
go. And so it's
Right.
the life lessons that get you to adulthood that are going to get you through adulthood. And I think that's an important point. It sounds like in the military as well. I haven't
Yeah.
been in the military, but it sounds very similar to what it was like being a scholar athlete.
It very much is, and I just don't. I think it just takes a special perspective to kind of plug and play. But I could say almost everything I've ever done. I have degrees. I went in the military. I own businesses. I wrote a book. Everything that I've done, and similar to you, right? You have seven businesses. You've created seven businesses. You wrote two books. One's a bestseller, which is maybe both are, but the one I was looking at was the first one. You know, like
Mhm.
and that's just phenomenal accomplishments. But it's not like, hey, I accomplished this and I'm done. There's always, all right, what could I do next to push myself or to benefit the people around me? And again, you were like, hey, it started with my kids asking me this, but it's going to turn into, well, I'm assuming other kids have the same question, and
Mhm.
so do the parents, and it's just a benefit. I think what you do is pretty awesome, and it's the part in leadership that we don't really focus on, right? It's not the glory 2 seconds at the buzzer, I made a free throw shot and I win the game. Like it's not the glory. I call it the unattractive labor. Like in sports, if someone was doing a highlight reel of your life, no one's watching you ice your knee.
No, no.
No, you're right. No one's watching you stretch. No one's watching you eat vegetables and eat, a certain amount of steak, rice, and chicken every single day
Mm.
because that's no one cares because that's the stuff that everyone needs to do, but they refuse to do. And that's what the difference is. It's not the workout, it's not the gameplay. So I think that's kind of where you sit is in the background and you're leading people from silence,
Mhm.
which not that you're silent, but you're like people forget that these things are important. So I think silent leadership echoes, right? Like it pushes through a form of what we're doing and everything that we're doing. So from you to, let's say, for the coaches out there, what do you think a coach can do to
Mm.
help prepare an athlete that they're working with that wants to go to college, maybe scholarship, whatever? What can the coaches do to instill these characteristics to push them forward without the kid even knowing, without the parents involving? Just what can the coaches do? What characteristics or what should they be teaching?
So I think about my coaches and what they did, right? Like proof of concept. I mean, I've coached so many different sports over the years, and one thing I know for sure is in a generation, some things have changed. Back when I
Yeah,
competed, you won or lost. There was not a
yeah,
trophy for every student. And I learned with tears that I lost, and it was painful, and my parents had to take me out for ice cream, and I got over it. And what it taught me is tenacity. I'm like, I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to do something
yeah,
about it. And it's going to drive me to be a better whatever that is. And so, as
absolutely.
a coach, I think we do a disservice to students when we have a fake carrot. I never ever tell a child they can't do something. That is not my belief. My belief is they can until they prove that they don't want to. And it's a
Yeah,
choice they get to make. So I would never shoot them down. But at the same time, I get students, several, all the time, who somebody has told them they're going to play a D1 sport in college, but they are on the freshman or JV team until their junior year.
yeah,
I'm like, that is so messed up because now this family is believing that they're going on a full ride scholarship, and there is no way, no how that is ever going to happen. And now it's on me to help the family really look at what's plan B. And
yeah,
that's the tragedy I see. So from a coach's perspective, what I recommend is showing them good, better, and best. this is good. This is benchmark. You're doing great. Your batting average is this. Your free throws is this. Your, shots on goal is this. But here's what college looks like. Here's what professional looks like. You can do it if that's what you want. And that's how I approach top tier schools. I
Yeah.
never tell a student, oh, you don't have the IQ. You're not smart enough to go to that school. I simply say, if that's the school you want, let's go get it. This is how much test prep. This is how much leadership. This is how many extracurriculars. This is how much community service. And they're like, oh my God, maybe I don't really want that school so much. But now they have a choice. And I think when a coach is a good coach, they can coach them to make a personal decision on how bad do they want it, or is it something their parent wants for them?
Yeah.
That's where the disconnect has always come as I've coached and as I've mentored all of these years. And now I own a nonprofit, and our nonprofit is dealing with the same exact thing because there's challenges all over the place. Do we decide to just let them be challenges, or do we decide, no, let's change the mindset and let's do something different? When people say teenagers, they're lazy, I'm like, I beg to differ. I have 52 students who meet every week for an hour. They've raised over $50,000 for my nonprofit. They're leading others to be the change they wish to see. And they're like, well, I've never met them. And I'm like, that's a shame. Because they are amazing, and they're doing it because they want to do it, not because somebody's making them do it. And as a coach, what better way to tell them and show them at the same time that if you put in good hard work, determination, mindset, and go for it, you're going to get as far as you're going to get. But to tell somebody no, I don't know. It just is not in me to make that judgment call.
I think that's, again, that's very insightful. A lot of people think that their opinion is right or wrong, and they don't realize it's just an opinion. And I relate that back to like powerlifting. So when I have powerlifting athletes and bodybuilding athletes, they look at each other and the bodybuilders are like, they're lifting wrong. And then the power lifters are like, oh, they're lifting stupid. That's not enough weight. So what I try to remember is, and it kind of taught me a lot, was everyone has their own personal goal and their own achievement. And you don't know what you don't know until someone taught you that you didn't really know that, so I always try to remember bodybuilding, powerlifting. In powerlifting, you are a weight lifter. In bodybuilding, you're a physique artist. So if you're a physique artist, your goal is to lift the least amount of weight with the overall best result. You're not trying to exhaust the body, you're trying to exhaust one thing at a time. As a power lifter, you're doing the exact opposite. You're trying to use the whole body to engulf one motion to get the most overall effort through the whole central nervous system to accomplish one task. They are complete opposites. Why are you judging each other? You have no idea what the other one's even doing, let alone having the wherewithal to make the call of right, wrong, yes, no. So it really just depends on. I get a lot of questions just because I coach so many different sports and like health and wellness. I write nutrition plans, and people will say, well, show me what you do. I want to look like you or whatever. And that's like my number one. You can't look like me because I've lived my life, and it's not about you're not good enough. It's about your body with my weight and it won't be shaped the same, and that's okay. Like you have to reach a new height for yourself. Don't look at me and want to be like me. Look at me and you can respect, okay, I respect the process. And that's how you know I'm the mentor you want to use. That's it. It's not about being like me. It's just, oh, okay, I like these good habits that you've built and I want to start doing that as well. And it comes back kind of to what you just said. And I'm taking notes if that's okay, because I appreciate, yeah,
You
I
can use my
appreciate the
thoughts,
thoughts.
everything it's all yours.
Well, I'll give you credit for sure. Proof of concept equals tenacity. And so that you said it in a longer sentence, right? And you made more context and made it make sense. But to me, it makes perfect sense just like that. Like if the coach is honest and not harsh, but honest. It's not your opinion. It's about what does it look like? What is it really? Don't feed these kids and these parents lies. And that's kind of where I want to get with like travel baseball right now. At 12, 13, 14 years old, I know a bunch of kids that can barely play baseball, and their parents pay thousands of dollars for them to play on these teams, and the tournaments go 3 or 4 games no matter what, win or lose. So I actually listened to a coach say this. It doesn't matter if we win or lose today. Hopefully we lose today because they'll put us in the losers bracket and tomorrow will be easy and we'll get an easy trophy.
Wow.
I actually heard a coach say that next to me, and I turned around and I said, "You lost your mind. You lost your
What
mind.
is he
You cannot."
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, "You can't teach the kids to hope to lose so that way it's easier later." And I was like, that's the same as like my son runs cross country and he's naturally gifted at it. So the better he does, he knows I'm going to make him push to go harder. So he on purpose gets the same time all the time. And I'm like, well, if you ran a 6 minute mile when you were 7 years old, now you're 13. I don't want to see a 6 minute mile. But he knows if he's a 6 or a 6:30, my expectation being realistic, since that's kind of easy for him, I won't make him run a 5 minute. And he's winning because of his age group. He's winning trophies and winning. And I said, but eventually the kids that had to work hard to run that 6 minute mile will always surpass you because you're doing what's easy for you and your gift is great. But their hard work will outperform your natural talent every single day. So it's like a reminder. And then he lost one of his races and he was upset. I said, where did that come from? Like why are you upset? Have you been training? What are you upset about? You don't even have the right to be upset. You don't put no work in. You just want to wake up and win. You just want to wake up and win, dude. You don't deserve that winning if you lost and now you're going to quit. Like you shouldn't be winning. The world just let you,
Hard.
But yeah, I think that's super proof of concept and equals tenacity. If the coach can prove the concept and be honest, it's not about right or wrong or yes or no. Hey, this is the goal, this is the path. The tenacity of the mentee or the athlete will have to shine above that. So that's kind of your call to action for coaches would overall, to sum it up, is to be honest and fair.
And honest, fair, and help the student understand good, better, and best. A
Yes.
lot of them are living in a world where their parent tells them they are the most amazing, blah, 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 blah. And some of them are naturally gifted and some are not. But the thing that I see at a teenage level when they get to me is that their parents are expecting them to play D1 whatever. And when I ask for their statistics and I compare them to the university, I'm like, but your numbers don't line up. If your numbers don't line
Yeah.
up, how are you going to do that? And they're like, well, because I'm on the XYZ club team. And I'm like, well, how much did that cost? And they're like, I don't know, my parents just, and then it just kind of keeps going. And so my wish is for coaches to say, listen, I support you. I'll help you get there. Let's look at some benchmarks we need to hit in order to be on track to do that. We can't come from this position to that position without making some adjustments in food, in training, in
Yeah.
cross training, in sleep, and all of the other athletic stuff. So that would be my recommendation if coaches are listening. And again, it doesn't have to be mean, but if they have benchmarks, I used to, for my own kids, my son he played soccer. He would not get a yellow card. He just wouldn't get a yellow card, even as a child. And he was a defensive back. So he was like last defensive player. I'm like, man, it's you or nobody. Like, it's just the goalie. And I go, you got to play harder, play stronger, I said, what's it going to take? And he says, $1. I said, awesome. I will give you $1 if you play more aggressively. And he got his first yellow card. I said, how was that? And he goes, Oh, I could have been doing that all the time. It was like, okay, now you're playing me. So, helping him understand what was good, better, and best. Not that I wanted him to be mean and get a red card. I wanted him to learn how to play, be a more aggressive player, and show him he wasn't going to hurt anybody by getting a yellow card. He was just going to go after the ball. And so that small example really taught him a lot about what it takes to really go to the next level. And as a coach, you have that opportunity every single day you go to practice.
Right. So, and I know the answer to this, but I just want to see how you're going to word it. Um, so for again, last question about coaches, but for the coaches, what how important do you think it is that they actually, and I say practice, that they practice good leadership traits and characteristics? Because it's not just most coaches, they want to win the game and then I won the game, or how did you get the winning team? Oh, my team is great, but we won the championship. And it's like, oh, this coach brought us there, right? So good coaches say we, not I. But how important is it for them to actually practice and study and research good leadership techniques?
I think it's really critical, especially in today's world where the teens, the kids are spending so much time on social media and not that much time in practice. And
Yeah.
so they really need some positive role models. They need to understand that when a coach asks you to do something, you don't talk back. You actually do it. And a coach not letting a child get away with just ignoring or being disrespectful is really not doing anything for that child's development. So I really believe a good coach is one that always is thinking, how can I make these kids, these athletes better? Better mindset, better attitude, better physical fitness, better at the game they're about to play, but also in teamwork. I don't know too many sports that there's no I in team. That was a straight quote from my softball coach. And I used to say, yes, I get that, but, and he goes, there's no but in team either. And I would be like, oh, okay, I see where you're going. And he was not a hothead, but he was one of those who would listen to you and then he would set you straight. He would not just send you off and yell at you and degrade you. And I mean, I had plenty of those. He was my best coach. And I think back to why he was the best coach is because he humanized what he was saying. It wasn't
Yeah.
in the passion or the heat of the moment. He was there realizing that 99% of us were not going professional.
Yeah.
That we were truly going to be just good human beings, and he was there to help us be a good human being. And I think that's what made him the best coach, and we won because of that. It was a product of the coaching, yes, but I think we all became a better team because there was respect.
I absolutely 1000% agree with all of it. That's and well, just it because I don't really care about the game or the sport. I'm going to use the game, the sport, the technique, whatever we're going through. One, I'm going to hit you with hardship and see how you receive it. And then we're going to work on how you receive hardship. And then I'm going to remind you that who you are when everything is going your way is not really your character. It's easy to be happy and upbeat and cheery and when you're winning and everything's going your way. I said who you truly are in the moments where everything goes wrong and there's nothing you can do about it and you're not at your best, and that you show me day in and day out who you are every single time you strike out, every single time you failed your meal plan, every single time you failed a workout or didn't go or whatever. You're showing me who you are in the moments where it's tough to keep character. So character is challenged in hardship. So you can say you are whoever you want to be, but who are you really and who are you lying to? So when I hit a kid with that, you can be upset all day, but You being upset about missing the ball doesn't change the fact that the ball is not going to travel different because you're mad at it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe catch it. And if you want to work on how to catch it, that's why I'm here. But I'm not here to help you be mad at the game. So, like, absolve yourself of those feelings, work through those emotions. I'm not saying ignore emotion, I'm saying work through it. You can have it and not respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
All thoughts are not valid, all feelings do not exist outside your body. So, I heavily rely on teaching the children characteristics that would, it works for soldiers going to war. Why wouldn't it work for a child playing a sport? And if we think about the history of sports, why were they invented? So people stopped dying in the Colosseums, right? Like it used to be war games and people would, hey, my best against your best, and we're going to fight to the death. And then our colonies don't have to go to war. We're going to respect the fighters and what you have raised in your community. And that's how they gained respect for the toughness and grit and survivability of each other. And they'd be like, wow, your fighter really brought a heft to him today. You guys must know something that we don't. So like that's how, so, and then forward going into sports and then forward more going into the Olympics. Sports exist as a way to compete, to keep us all honest. And that's the only reason sports exist is because we want to compete. We're competitive by nature. Humans need strife because without strife, our mind goes. So like you need strife and maybe not severe war kind of strife, but in general, coaching and leading, you have to remember that the kid needs a challenge that's not, it has to kind of be themselves. It's not you're not fighting the other team. I say any sport, I really say baseball is a game of 6 inches between your ears because that's the only thing that matters is what's going on between your ears, right? Like inside your head is the only thing that matters. And I just think that's super important for us and kind of the athletes and what you just said. Like we got to remember those characteristics, like you said about your coach. He was teaching characteristics that led to a successful team. It wasn't all about the team. And one way I do that is when we show up to any kind of dugout or performance, if there's trash there, before we got there, we clean it. Because whatever I get, when it leaves my hands, it's going to be better than I got it. No matter how we perform today, we know we left this field in better health than we arrived at it. And that's how it starts. And then at the end of the game, we do the same thing. I don't care if you're a winner. I don't care if you're a loser. You're going to clean up, take care of your equipment, show respect to the field. And I won't get too much, but pray for thanks, right? Like be grateful. You're going to be grateful that you got the opportunity to step on this field today, win or lose. Your reward is not in the trophy. It's in the fact that you're here. You're welcome. So I just think that that's super powerful. It goes back to everything you're saying. And that's why that topic right there, I agree with so hard. And too much, I don't always think generational is the problem as much as it is the new leaders and the new coaches we have don't necessarily understand how to lead. They know how to achieve, but achieving to say I'm the best is not the same as leading so others can be up there with you. And I think that's the biggest gap I see when I'm looking at other coaches and going into colleges. It's all about how do I get you there? And if I got you there, I'm successful and I can walk away. But no one cares about what happens after you. Why? True success lives on beyond me. And if I had an impact, it should be successful without me.
Yeah.
If I am the cursor of success, that's very selfish leadership. So then going back to parents, I think a lot of that is how the parents view it is kind of like how we talked about in the beginning, like my kids are doing good. That's great because they're proud. But what is some mistakes that you feel like parents make with their kids that they need to correct in their aspects of, again, being athletes or students or going into colleges? What do you think the parents that you see on average, the mistakes that they're making?
I think a lot of parents are overwhelmed in this day and age. I think they're overwhelmed by the fast pace that everything moves because of technology. I think that they're doing the very best that they can. I don't believe any parent goes into parenting with a book of here's how you do it. I'm just going to throw it out the door and pretend it doesn't
Right.
exist. And so it is my belief that every single parent believes they're doing what's best for their child. At least that's what I want to believe. What I
Yeah.
see is not always the same. And that's the challenge, is how do we help that parent who, I'll give you an example. Had a student, a family come to me, parent calls ahead of time and he goes, listen, I will hire you if you can talk my child out of being a botanist. And I'm like, what are we talking? What? Whoa, where's this
Right.
coming from? And he says, you'll see, you'll see. And I'm like, all right. I go into the call and I do what I do. I'm a very curious person and I don't judge. So teenagers and I get along really great. And so I said, oh, what do you want to do? And she says, I want to be a botanist. And I said, great. Can you help me? Because I have a brown thumb. I kill every plant I've ever touched. Do you have any pointers for me? And she goes, oh, I don't like dirt. I go, what? She goes, but you said you want to be a botanist. And she goes, yeah, I want to save the environment. Oh, you are an environmentalist. And Dad's like,
Oh no.
whoa, like mic drop. He's like, all this time I've been losing sleep because I thought she wanted to go to NYU to be a botanist. She wants to be an environmentalist and save the planet. Very, very different. And so I
Right.
believe sometimes adults don't always hear what the child is saying because they have preconceived notions and they want what's best for the child. And sometimes the idea of them being a thing scares them to death. They're like, oh my gosh, I remember when my son was little, he wanted to be a trash truck driver super bad. Like when he was like 2 and 3, he would wait by the window and he's like, Mom, it's coming. Oh my gosh. And he gets so excited. He'd go out and greet him. And that's how we got rid of his pacifier. But anyway, what I learned is that I asked, why? Why do you want to be a trash truck driver? He goes, did you see how powerful that truck was? Do you see how strong those men were? He was looking at it completely different than an adult would be as, that's not a very fun job. He really did. And then as he got older, he wanted to be a toll booth collector, like where you sit in a booth and people throw money at you as they pass you by. He's like, that is genius, Mom. Like, I want that job. And I'm like, what? I don't understand. He goes, well, what other job can you sit and be on your Game Boy and people are throwing money at you and it's like cha-ching? And I said, oh, you like money. Interesting. So I took little pieces and I'm encouraging coaches and adults and parents to listen beyond what the child is saying. And don't have judgment straight away that you are worried that they're going to make a drastic mistake. They're just testing the water. They're trying to see what your reaction is. They're trying to understand, where do I belong in this world? And if you are truly that coach, that parent, that mentor, asking them, tell me more. I'm curious. Why is it that you want to be a professional soccer player? And they will tell you. Did you see the way the crowd yells when they come out? I love that feeling. Well, great. That happens with people who go on stage and motivate others. Like there's other ways you can get that same feeling. So it's helping them take the little bit that they know that is resonating and really see beyond that without a quick judgment. It could be they want to be a leader of a large corporation. It could be they want to be a lawyer that battles in court. There's so many things that child could be telling you that you just have to see beyond what their words are saying. And I think that's a really important point that families need to be thinking about, because the words that you say as an adult can cut straight through and the child cannot recover. I have 2 stepkids, and unfortunately the step parent did a lot of damage that I had to undo. And it was not telling them they're better than they are. It was affirming who they are.
Yeah.
And if you can always find the good in everything. And really affirmed, did you see the way those students followed you? You are a natural leader. That is an affirmation of now something they can take into the world and be like, I've been told I'm a leader. Don't know how, but it works out for me. And so it really is listening without judgment and affirming. And that's how you get the child who's ready to launch, who's ready to adult, who's ready to pay their own car insurance. Like, these things are real. The simplified version.
No, I think that's amazing. And again, I couldn't agree more. I think it really hits home for anyone listening to that can relate, either with their parents or with their kids or with someone they know or a friend or a buddy. There's a book called Start With Why by Simon, and I forget his last name all the time, or I just can't pronounce it, so I don't remember it. But it's a phenomenal book, and when I was in the service, I used to make my junior leaders read it.
Okay.
I would buy it, and I'd be like, "You are going to read this book." And the idea is, if you start with the why, it's you get the buy-in. So like you build the trust and respect in the conversation. Start with why instead of judgment or telling or right and wrong or opinion. Don't even make an opinion yet. Start with why, right? Like you just said, I want to be like a trash driver. Why? Like what do you see that I don't see? And I think if we could all be, I look at people like this in general. We all want to be interesting, but if we could take a back seat to being interesting, how much better would life be if we were just more interested? Like it's not just about who we like. I want to be this. That's great, but like what about? Wouldn't it be great if you could make other people feel that about themselves? And that comes from being interested, not interesting, right? Interesting people talk. And sometimes if you can just sit in a room of people and be quiet, you learn so much so fast. And if instead of sharing your opinion right away, if you just asked why, you would know, why the color purple is so important to somebody before you said, I hate mundane questions, right? Oh, that was my mom's favorite color and she passed away. Oh, well, that's an important conversation to have now that I just completely threw out the window and accused you of being boring or whatever, like, so now I just burned that bridge of communication. I'll never get it back. So I think it's heavily on that. You're saying the parents need to be better understanding and open-minded and communicative. Instead of pushing their thoughts and ideas on the kid, let the child explain to you a little bit what they mean. And I think, again, either being a kid yourself or having kids, like everyone at some point can relate with a moment that I couldn't wait to share this with my mom or dad. And as soon as I did, they stomped my dreams. You know what I mean? Like everyone can relate in some way. And I'm sure we've all done it not knowingly. Like, look at this video. I don't really care about that. Like, oh, like, I'm busy. I'm working, whatever.
I
So
teach
yeah, I think,
that in a very unique way. So at College Ready, we believe that every teenager before they graduate high school should do community service. It's not a nice to have or a good idea, because it's an interesting thing. When you're serving another human being, you take the focus off of yourself. And
yeah,
now you're willing to try things because they need help. You may not have
yeah,
known that that was your gift, and now you're able to do this for this other person. Just think what our world would be like if every teenager did 200 service hours before they graduated high school. We would be in such a different position, it is my belief. And just like you were saying, you learn so much when you look at life through the eyes of another person. And when
yeah,
we're stuck in a bubble of just our surroundings, and our parents are trying to make our lives as best as they can, good, bad, or indifferent, and you get to look and step into the life of somebody else who doesn't have it as good as you gain perspective on your own life, and you're able to be, show grace when
yeah,
needed, have caring and empathy and understanding and collaboration. what wonderful gifts to go into adulthood with, and especially to lead with. So our Passion with Purpose projects at College Ready, we start with the student's passion, and then we find out what they advocate for. Then we use their passion to lead others to create the change they wish to see. So now they're stepping into leadership, they're using something they truly love, and they're fixing something they believe needs fixing. So you're empowering them to have this opportunity. Big, medium, small, it doesn't matter. It's an opportunity for them to step into an opportunity that they have never had before, and they probably wouldn't take because this generation doesn't like to fail.
Yeah. And that's my whole motto. Every business I've ever made, underneath it, growth starts at failure. So it's every time I get a new client and I'm like, did you do the workout? And they're like, yeah. I say, did you finish it? And they say, yeah. And I'm like, then you didn't work out. You did exactly what you knew you could do to finish. And you held all these reserves in the tank. But if you worked out the way I told you to, you would have said no. So now when next time you try it, if you don't fail, you did nothing today. If I walk a mile, I can walk a mile. Walking a mile every day doesn't help me walk 2 miles. So like, and that's exactly like we need to take that step forward, because if you fail nothing, you've achieved nothing, you've risked nothing. And I always say, anyone who says I'm a perfectionist, when I hear coaches or athletes and I'm a perfectionist, I'm like, that's an excuse so you don't have to start. That all that is you quitting before you tried, because you tell me you're a perfectionist in the idea that that alleviates you of the stress of having to start, because you won't enjoy it unless it's completely perfect and you won't stop. So you're convincing yourself that you're this dedicated, beautiful eyed, perfect person that needs perfection to be okay. But really, you're scared that you can't make it perfect. And since you're scared that you don't have the ability to be perfect, you never try. So like, what a backwards way to talk to yourself. Like you're talking, you're saying this to yourself. Like, you're not tricking me. Like, anytime I heard that, I can't tell you how many people with physique or baseball or artists, I would paint that mural, but I'm a perfectionist and I know it'd take me a long time and I don't want to get upset. And all right, well then, okay, quitter. Like you didn't even try. And how about you just start? And that's exactly what you're saying. Like how many of these kids, if they did community service or if they had other things and other people in their lives leading them, I don't have to tell you the goal of the leadership. Hey, well, how about you just start? And I have faith that you'll figure it out on the way. Like, it's going to be hard to ignore. You'll figure it out. It's just, but you have to start. And if you don't know where to start, I can give you the starting point. But you're going to do the work. I can't do the work. But I can show you. We start here. And just shut your mouth and do it. And you'll just, your life will be so.
Shut your mouth and do. I've never had that opportunity to say that.
Correct.
I think the other thing that's important for your listeners to understand is, if your child doesn't learn to fail and pick themselves up and be tenacious, if they fail for the first time in college when they're living on their own and they've never had the opportunity to understand what that feels like and how to recover from that, they are going to have a really hard, difficult time. And now you're super far away from them and they're feeling really alone. And so if you can just help them to fail in the small things, where you could teach them, like the breakup. Everybody has a breakup, right? It feels yucky. I don't care who you are. You could pretend it doesn't hurt. It hurts. But if you do that for your first time away from your parents or support of the family, it's going to be a lot harder than if you have a little bit here and there, because you can see that, oh yeah, I remember that guy. I got over him very quickly. Or, wow, that was really hard, but I grew from that and I'm a better person for it. So now I think I'm going to be okay. That's why I think it's important that the failing forward happens during those pivotal middle school, high school years, because that's the safety of somebody, a parent, a mentor, a coach that says, okay, How did that work for you when you didn't look at my signals and you did a bunt when I said, let it go? And you
Yeah.
got, the last, and they were feeling bad, but that's okay if they learn from that mistake.
Right. And that's just to transition from, that's important for the parents to help the kids understand, but I think a lot of the parents struggle with that themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And in them struggling with the fear of failure, they forget to teach that lesson, or they feel like they're failing already. And just to go kind of to finances real quick, how embarrassing or failure do you feel? What failure do you feel? You apply for a loan and you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't have money to send my kid to college. So now I failed them and now they have to pick up the slack. So you got to be a good athlete. You got to get straight A's. You got to do this. You got to do that. And it kind of puts it all back onto the kid, right? So where I think it's both ways. Like it's a healthy failure, because then there's people who just breed failure because you're so scared of it. That's all you see. So what do we say to the parents that maybe have a great kid and they're worried about like funding and finances, because the parents don't necessarily talk to the kids about it or tell the kids why they're pushing them so hard
Mm-hmm.
or why their life is the way it is, because they don't want to admit, I don't have the money for that. I can't. So instead of admitting their failure, they're hiding it because they're hiding from it, hoping that they can push it down the line or kick the can. What would we say to those kind of parents?
Well, first I'd say there's four buckets of money. And if you don't know that there's four buckets of money, let me tell you. The first bucket of money is called need-based funds. Those are for families who make a combined income of less than 200,000. If you can get into an Ivy League school, they will foot the whole bill if you make under that. Okay, but that's not the majority of the people I talk to. So then where's the other three buckets? The first bucket is merit. The student has earned it. They've worked hard. They've proven that they are worthy of a merit opportunity, merit scholarship, merit, being part of the honors college, whatever that is. That's earned. It may be the first chair in music. It may be ASB president. It may be something that you've gone over and above. Then there's two more buckets, right? There is institutional money. That means, like when my son applied to college, he got a full ride to USC because they thought he was going to make their school better. Well, when Harvard said, we want your child, I said, whoa, 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 I got a free ride over here. I'm just fine with him over here. I don't need your $63,000 a year. My son's like, well, Mom, it's Harvard. And I'm like, I don't care who it is. And and he says, well, that's where I want to go. And I said, then it's up to you to convince them that you're good enough and that USC didn't make a mistake and they want you too. And that's what he did. And so he did a full financial negotiation reconsideration, and that's how he got a full ride to Harvard. So it's really understanding the schools that have the big, deep pockets, like $53 billion in endowment, and the schools that are very, very stingy and aren't going to give you a penny. Know before you apply. It's very critical. Then the final bucket is independent. And this could be the craziest thing. It could be that you're a vegan. There's a scholarship right now, $10,000 if you're a vegan. I don't know. I could be a vegan for 10 grand for at least a year. Or there's a scholarship right now if you have one brown eye and one green eye for 15,000. I don't have that, but that's pretty interesting. My son won the Coca-Cola scholarship his junior year, and that was 25,000 a year. That was no chump change. And he
No.
didn't have to do anything different. He just submitted his resume that he was already doing. And so it's not knowing that all of this money exists and it never empties. In the last 18 years, my students have earned over $80 million in scholarships.
Wow.
Last year alone was 11.8. So when I talk to families, they're assuming they make too much money so they can't afford college, but they're not understanding that there are 10 colleges that are tuition free. Oh, so really, they just don't know what they don't know. And that's what I want families to understand. It's like you could do your own taxes, or you hire a CPA and they save you a boatload of money. You could sell your own house, you hire a realtor, and it's going to go way better. Personal trainer, I've had many of them in my lifetime, and they can accomplish things I could never do on my own. I don't have that willingness that they can pull
Yeah.
out in me. And so it really comes down to your teenager has no idea how to do this. As a matter of fact, ask them what they would do with $1 million cash, and you will see financial literacy at its finest. With that in mind, parents, is it going to be you who figures it out? It's not your high school counselor, because if your child's getting better grades than C average, they probably won't ever see them. And then it comes down to who? Is it going to be your coach? Well, your coach may be able to make some connections with other coaches, but academically, that coach is going to be evaluated on your GPA as well. And if you're a pitcher and there's another pitcher and they have a higher GPA, guess what pitcher they're going to go with?
Yep.
All day long.
Yep.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we said in the very beginning. Everything's a competition if we want it to be or not. So we get so used to looking at the competition, we forget to look inward. We forget to reflect inward. What could I do? We start looking at what are they doing and I got to do better at that. And it's like, yeah, you might have, you might throw harder than me, or you might have a better GPA. But, I started a youth fund for kids doing this. And how can I be me and push into what I'm passionate about without having to be like so and so or achieve what they're achieving, or because especially sports, I don't want to say hired. I got thrown on when I was younger. I got thrown on the team that went to the Little League World Series. We played in Florida. It was on TV. And I don't think I was talented enough at baseball to be there. I was talented, but not like these kids. And when the coach took me, he said, "You're going to play. And the only reason you're going to play is because your character." He said, "The team with you on it, you're the heart. Like, you bring something out in the team that I can't." He said, "I don't know what it is about you, man, but the team feels comfortable when you're out there, even though like you're not." And he was honest. He was like, "You're not my best guy." And he was like, "But you're going to play because for some reason, the team doesn't want to do it without you." So he was kind of overruled, and I was like, "Whatever, dude. I don't care if I get to play. I'm cool." But yeah, it was really cool perspective. It's like me being me is why I was chosen. It wasn't because of my resume necessarily or characteristics or whatever. But again, it doesn't mean it's not competitive. It just means you build your strengths, but focus on your weaknesses and make them stronger. You can't just be strong in what you're strong at. You need to be more than a one-trick pony. You can't just do one thing. So again, coming back to, leadership and family and coaches, say we have an athlete or a student that's struggling with these decisions. What college do I go to? How do I get financing? Say the parents aren't involved much, right? How does the coach bridge that gap? Well, how should they approach that?
Yeah, so depending on the sport, it plays a different, I see it in a different
Yeah.
light. And, a team sport is always going to be different than an individual sport.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to just group them all together. But what I can say is this: it goes back to helping the student see their future. And what does that look
Yeah.
like? When I'm helping a child, a teenager, figure out, do I want to play my sport in college? We don't just talk about it. I'm like, well, let's go see at your dream school, what is the average lap speed of this particular breaststroke that you're wanting to go for. And then we go and find that stat, and I'm like, can you do this? And they're like, not yet. And I'm like, now you know what you need to do. And so
Right.
a coach can guide them with wisdom. I often will say, reverse engineer it. If you want to be I'm just thinking of the World Cup right now because the game's
Yeah.
on, and I'm just thinking
Yeah.
about it, and it's killing me. I want to know who's playing, but I'm thinking about Metzi. It's like if you want to be that guy, what did he do to get there? I want you to look at his life backwards, and I want you to look at the sacrifices he made, and I want you to look at the challenges that he had, the injuries he faced, the opportunities he was given. And if that looks like the life you want, let's go get it. But now you have a roadmap. It's no longer, how do I get there, coach? And I believe any adult can do that. I remember when my son was younger, back in the early days of Lance Armstrong, my son thought, wow, that guy is a phenom, like amazing. And I said, well, then read his biography.
Yeah.
Let's learn what was his mindset. What did he do? We learned a lot later, and that's not what we're talking about. But understanding that giving the child resources to see their future, to see their dream come true, and then reverse engineer it. It's just like I would if a child wanted to be a CEO or if they wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, a CPA. I'm like, interview them.
Yeah.
Call them up. They'll talk to you. You're a kid. They would love to help you.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant way to just open up the world for a child who may not have the support that they may need at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of caveat on that, just like a follow-up question on that. We talked about maybe the parent kind of struggling or whatever. So let's go back to the athlete as the coach, and you see what common factors have you noticed? Some athletes that are maybe kind of fairly matched in skill, talent, GPA, whatever. Why are some struggling and some not? Like what is the correlation between athletes that struggle with these concepts and the athletes that don't? Like what is the biggest factor in playing if they're going to be successful or not?
It's mindset.
Yeah.
I can't answer it any other way. One person has learned how to utilize their mind in such a way that they can realize that what's happening right now is not forever and it's not the end of the world. And I remember when my daughter, she was a competitive cheerleader, and she was, by the age of 12, she was at the highest level that she could be. And before every time they went on stage, the coach just leaned into positive affirmations. And they talked about what it would feel like as they hit the floor, what it felt like when they stuck their tumbling. And it was so powerful. I sat there feeling like I could go and do it. And I'm like, there's no way I can do that, but I was ready to hit the floor. And I do believe that a coach sharing that framework can
Yeah.
take a child from just a young, thoughtless being to a competitor, because the mindset is a big part of it. You may be smaller, you may be slower, you may be whatever it is. To try to justify it doesn't matter. I've seen so many things that I can honestly say mindset will win every single time over pure determination, because once you're determined and you fail, it's really hard if you don't have a good mindset.
Yeah, I always bring that back to questions about motivation. And everyone's always asking because I'm not old, but I'm older, especially military years. I broke my back, I broke my neck, I have nerve damage through the whole left side of my body. And I'm still powerlifting, I'm still running, and I'm still doing these things and coaching, and I can still get down in the dirt with the kids and show them T drills and pop time drills, and I'm still running in under 6 second 40, and I'm 35, right? So not super old, but the body has been through some things. And what I get a lot from kind of my peer group, not so much youth athletes, but like the parents, they'll come in and they'll be like, "Hey man, I'm glad you're coaching my kid." And they'll find out that I do, bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever. And they'll be like, "How could I be like what you're doing? How do you stay motivated to do that?" And I always tell them it's not motivation. Motivation is a feeling of wanting to do something. Go watch a Rocky movie. You're going to want to go for a jog, like, but wake up tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the morning and tell me if you still feel motivated to do that. Probably not. So I always look at motivation is completely useless. You have motivation and that's great. But if you're relying on motivations, it's like all of your goals and everything you want to do, you're looking at the reward. So if you're telling me you're not willing to do it without the reward, then you're never going to get there. If the end goal is this topic or make it to this college or get a scholarship or get this GPA, that's great. But at some point along the path, you got to realize I'm going to do this because I said I'm going to do this. I told myself I'm going to do this. So I'm not going to be a liar. I'm not going to lie to myself. I'm not going to disrespect myself. I told myself, I promised myself, right? So a big thing I ask people, and I'd love your feedback, is so if I said, hey, Shellee, your kids need you to do something, would you do it?
What, is it an emergency is what I would
Well,
ask.
just they need something from you. Maybe when they were younger, they need to eat, they need dinner. Are you making dinner?
Are you asking would I do it?
Yeah.
I would try to get them to do it with me.
Okay.
I wouldn't just do it for them. I'm not really big on that. I raised really independent children. And I would say, did you try to do it on your own?
Right. But if they needed something, you'd be there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would be there, but I definitely wasn't that parent that just, was at their beck and call.
Yeah. You're not spoon feeding them. But if they need, you're going to be there. And then that's kind of my next question for like your company, right? If your company needs you to perform something because they need it, you're going to do it, right?
Absolutely.
So, and then, let like a loved one or someone you care about, another family member, not necessarily a kid, your friends. If a friend called you and said, hey, I really need help moving this couch because I can't do it alone and it's raining, you're more than likely you're probably going to do it, right?
Sure.
So, how come the only person that we tend to lie to is ourselves? Right? Like the only person we stop to fail, we fail to show up for is ourselves. If I would do it for my kids and I would do it for my spouse and I would do it for work and I would do it for a friend, when I promise myself that I'm going to do something and then I'm like, nah, I'm tired. I don't feel like it. Like the only people we usually fail is ourselves. Because 9 times out of 10, if you care about the people or whatever, or the job or the work, if you care about it, so we disrespect ourselves. And I think that's a huge thing our athletes got to get through is when you don't want to eat right, you promised yourself that you wanted to perform at this task. And if you don't eat right, you're not going to perform, right? Well, my kids don't want a bedtime, but if you don't get 8 hours of sleep, you're not going to perform. That is essential to your mind and body connection to be able to perform the tasks that you have to go on tomorrow. So again, the unattractive labor, right? Like it's all the things we fail to do for ourselves in dedication rather than motivation. And people that don't have the right mindset can't find dedication.
Interesting.
You need that mindset, just like you said, like without that mindset, it's not dedication, it is motivation. Like motivation will fail you. It will show up short. Dedication is something else because you've already made the choice. So instead of rewriting history and saying, I'm not going to do it now, you're so dedicated to the mindset that you can't stop, that you will perform, that you have to do the things. Even if you fall short, like you said, you lose today. It doesn't mean you're losing forever. It's just what's now is now, and it doesn't mean that's tomorrow. So it kind of caveat, it's the same thing you said, just different words. I think that's super special. And it's something that people got to remember, especially in leaders, in coaches, and mentoring. It, it's not always about how do you feel. It's about you usually have the right answers. You just got to sit in the question for a little bit. Like you have to sit there and ask like, should I? Like you said at the very beginning, the second thing you said, be yourself and be original, proof of concept. Do you want it or do your parents want it? So when you sit the kid down, do you really want this? Be honest because the motivation of your parents will fail you, but the determination from something you truly want will not. You'll be fine. So it's that question, like that's super important. I guess it's the fourth thing that you said to me. And I've been taking little notes or whatever, 'cause
Yeah,
things
I'm
that I
like
think you're
amazed. You're like all the words I've been saying, you're writing them down. It's amazing. The one thought that I came to from that is I'll never forget when we were traveling when the kids were young. I would take them to science museums and art museums, and I would take them to a college campus, and I would just intellectual curiosity. What do you think goes
yeah,
on here? I would take
cool.
them
Yeah.
to a football game. I'd take them to a drama show. And I'll never forget when we walked on to Harvard's campus. We were visiting family on the East Coast, and my son walks into the where they ate, the common area, and he goes, "Mom, it's Hogwarts. This is the coolest place ever." He goes, "How do I get here?" And I'm like, "Oh, he found his why." And
Yeah.
that's all it took. I didn't have to ask anything else. He wanted to go there, and I was just there to help him along. So, parents, if you can figure out what it was for me, is I wanted my own glove. I wanted a leather glove like nobody's business. And my dad told me if I made the all-star team, that glove was mine. And that's what motivated me. But I had to decide, was I going to do the work to get on the all-star team? And so I think that's the two differences that you were talking about is,
Yeah.
he knew that glove was going to motivate me, but I knew I wanted that glove so much that I was determined to do what it took to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You just put it that's a good real life example of exactly what I was talking about. I won't go into mine because mine are kind of revolved around a lot of war and stuff. Kind of takes the conversation in a weird, a weird, a weird,
Yeah,
a weird angle.
I'm needle phobic and gun scared, so probably not a good topic for me.
Yeah, but my biggest motivation, I think, was just I wanted to find a group of people that would try harder than me
Mm,
and push me. I was always searching for this mentor or this leader, and I didn't realize at the same time I was building that same character because I was looking for it so hard, and I would find ways to make it real even if it wasn't.
mm,
And I didn't know I was doing that. And that's something I kind of tell my kids now. Like they think I'm real strong, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm strong, but I'm not as strong as you think I am." And then they're like, "Oh, you run real fast." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fast, but you think in your perception I'm so fast, and eventually you're going to be faster, and you're going to be stronger, and you're going to be wiser, and you're going to be smarter. So
mm.
don't let the version of me that you idolized die,
Yeah.
because I didn't die there. It's just you saw the things you wanted to see because you want to become those things.
Hmm.
You see what you look for. So if you romanticize strength and you're like, wow, you're real strength and that's what you appreciate, you need to build a life to where you're strong because that's what you see at 6 years old. You know who you want to be. You just don't know that that's the thought yet.
Mm.
I want to be someone strong and capable and smart. You want all these things. And it's just along the way, it gets beat out of you a little bit. Life beats you up, and then you start questioning, like, oh, yeah, I wanted to be a fireman or an astronaut. And it's like, well, I learned being an astronaut's a lot harder than I thought. So instead of doing that, they give up on that immediately and change careers. And
Mm.
it's like because they don't see themselves as being able to perform at that level. And I think that goes back to what we said about parents. It's not about lying to your kid and saying you're the best in the world.
Mm.
It's about saying, hey, I will support any decision and you are fully capable, but you have to truly want it beyond what I want for you.
Mhm.
You have to want it like you can't breathe. You have to be on fire. You have to have desire for this. And if not, your motivation for it will fail.
Mm.
So let's focus on what you really don't want to do it because it looks pretty. You want to do it because you're interested in space and you want to learn these things. And if I show you something, you ask why, not that's cool. It needs to be more thought than that. And I think that's just a good way of noticing that as a parent.
Mm.
It's kind of like you're paying attention now. You're not just, oh, you want to be an astronaut, whatever, because the opposite effect can happen too,
Mm.
right? I like when I was writing my book, I'm not a huge writer, and military writing is completely different than civilian writing.
Mm.
And everything's very clear, concise, direct. do not use too many words was like the whole thing. Uh, Let me read it and know what you're talking about with, I don't want the big red shiny object glistened in the sunlight. No, there's a red ball on the ground. That's what you're going to write. So that was like I was very uncomfortable writing my book and I wasn't good at it. And as I'm writing it, my mom's kind of like, she's very analytical and she's very intelligent. And she was kind of like, are you sure you should, like, this is what you're going to do? Like, are you able to do that? And I'm like, man, just because we're different doesn't mean I can't do it. Shut up. Shut up, mom. but, but no, it's just, yeah, it's important to know both. We don't want to fill them full of air and lie to them, but we also don't want to be the reason that they don't feel good about themselves.
Mm.
And I think the ways you do that, the way you describe doing that, because out of curiosity and like candor is special. I don't think I've heard a lot of people communicate in that way or understand that in themselves.
Mm.
So for as a coach, clearly you've done well just by how you speak about it, right? And your kids are doing great. You're doing great. That's awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about your book?
Yeah, when you said it was painful for you to write the book, I actually wrote my first book because I lost a bet. So, I'm not a writer either, and I could speak on a stage to thousands of people and have no fear whatsoever. I love a big audience. But what it came down to is when I dropped my son off at Harvard, I was, he had maybe a duffel bag. Typical boy. He's like, I don't need all this decorations and stuff. Just, I need a few pair of shorts. And so I'm unpacking him, and all the parents were crying. He looks at me. He's like, Mom, are you okay? I said, Yeah, I'm good. He goes, Well, why aren't you crying like all the other parents? I said, Man, if you were on my couch at home shooting up heroin, I would be crying. Like, that is a no joke statement. I go, You're at Harvard for free. I'm good. I'm
Yeah,
super
I'm
good.
ecstatic.
I'm
Right.
super good. And so the long and the short is when I left and got on the airplane, I had big old crocodile tears, but that's another story. For him, he looked at me and goes, Mom, I can now see that all this hard work has paid off. And when I graduate debt free and I do three other things that you said as my guidelines, will you write a book? And I said, oh, yeah, sure. Of course. Of course I'll do that. Not thinking he would hit all 5 tasks, which were not an easy thing. And so he crosses the stage at Harvard, and I was so proud. I was like, oh my gosh, you can hear me screaming. And he gives me his diploma, no joke, and he says, Mom, where's the book? And I was like,
Oh,
you remembered? He goes, it was only 4 years ago. And I'm like, I was just kidding. He goes, no, you weren't. No, you weren't. And I said, all right, I always keep a commitment. And I took a hiatus from work for 3 months, and I sat and I wrote the book. And I just wrote it because I knew that what worked for him could work for others.
yeah.
I knew that I had something to share with the world that would make people's lives better, easier, and more enjoyable. I did not know that it would be a bestseller in 24 hours of its release. And I did not know how proud that would make my children. I did not see that that one thing can make such a big difference. And so I wrote my second book because I realized the impact the first book made. And so for somebody who doesn't like writing, you never know when the next book is coming.
Yeah.
Just saying. And when I wrote the second book, my kids were the first to be promoting it and getting it out there and really stepping into, hey, this can help your family. It helped ours. And so both of my books are on Amazon, and I have them on sale for your listeners at $4 a piece. So I
Okay.
made the price so doable. It's cheaper than a Starbucks. And that you can go and at least you have the framework. I call it like the beginning of construction. You can pick it up, read one chapter, put it down, and it will give you everything you need to have a mindset of success and be able to guide your child without fighting, without the drama, and just lean into these are your last 4 years at home together. You
Yeah.
want them to want to come back for Thanksgiving and for Christmas.
Right.
And so if you do this well, they adult well. If you
Yeah.
don't do it well, there's a lot of problems that could come from this. And so just know, I didn't write a book because I wanted to sell 1 million copies. I did it because I care about you, the listener. I care about you, the parent, and the student who's navigating this process.
Absolutely. And that's why it did so well. If you would have wrote it in the intention of selling 1 million copies, it wouldn't have happened. And I think that's a funny way that, I say God, everyone has their own beliefs, but I think it's a funny way that life kind of shows you you're rewarded for the things that you didn't expect because you did the work. It was uncomfortable. Your blessings are waiting in the uncomfortabilities that you refuse to do, like,
All of
so,
that.
right. Yeah. So that's why it did so well, like, because again, going back to previous in the conversation, if you did it for the reward, it wasn't going to be fruitful because the thoughts of the reward cloud the judgment in the mind. But if you can just be clear and like, well, I told my kid I would do this. So, and now my kid's watching me. Like, I got to perform a little bit.
No
And
pressure.
that, right, right. And I love that. Real quick, say it. What's the names of the books? I just want to make sure if people want to go find it, they can find them.
Sure. The first one is how to send your student to college without losing your mind or your money. And that always gets a good chuckle because I really was afraid of losing both. And then the second one is the college admissions plan simplified. And that
Yeah.
is after 18 years, I pretty much have packaged it into a nice little book for you that you can just do it and not have the overwhelm. The simplification is going to make it enjoyable.
Yeah. And I kind of, I don't want to say lucky, but because of, my retirement and stuff like that and what I got from the service, my benefits that I receive now, my kids go to school here in Texas for free anyway. So, and that's kind of what I told, that's why I moved here. Actually, I lived in Georgia and I moved to Texas and became a resident because of the things that they offer my children being a combat veteran. So I'm like, hey man, like it's free.
You earned it.
Well, I mean, well, they better earn it now. It's free. Even if you don't want to do it, why not? Why say no? It's free. At least up until a bachelor. Like
Yeah.
it's free, man. Like why would you not take advantage of that? So there's no real reason. And my 12-year-old, he actually started a little donut company.
I love it.
So he he sells donut. He gets up at 2:30 in the morning on weekends. He cooks the dough from scratch. He makes the icing from scratch, does it all. We go outside and he lets the dough rise and we have times or whatever. And his mom helps him a lot. I don't get too involved because I realized if I'm there, he sits back and waits. But if I'm not around, he steps up and does what he has to do. So sometimes I realized less is more. So he can know I'm there to support in the background, but I'm not going to be over his shoulder. It's too much. So yeah, he'll go out there and from 7 a.m. until like 10 a.m., he'll sell his donuts. And so far, he met his yearly goal in like 3 weekends, 4 weekends.
Oh,
And it's like,
entrepreneur.
right, right. So, and I was like, all right, so I made a spreadsheet and it's an automatic, it's like a P&L statement and it goes through automatic updates. So when I plug in how many donuts sold, just those raw numbers, it auto generates like all his like what it costs to make it, whatever his green is gold, and then it goes through which donuts are performing at which rate. So now we have bets like which one's gonna do the best. So, but it's super cool and I'm not saying that has to be his thing forever, but he does love to cook and he loves to bake. So instead of just like, oh, okay, let's bake for fun, like it's kind of like, hey man, you can take what you love and be motivated and it can be rewarding. He's not just doing it for the money. And now, like, there was a little girl that went to the hospital and she wanted some, and her mom reached out. So we personally made her a batch, and she was fine. Everything was okay. But when she got home, like, we were like, hey, we made a batch just for her. Like,
Oh,
yeah. So it's just like now he's doing community things. He took him to baseball, handed him out. Like,
mm,
it's a way that he now incorporates business success with the idea that if I'm doing well, I can help others and it doesn't hurt. So now it's just like a completely different world, and he's 12
I
and he
love it.
gets up at 2:30 in the morning to, but if I try to get him to read a book, I got to almost fist fight the kid.
Get him a book on managing money, stocks, finances, how to grow wealth.
Yeah.
That's the stuff I like to learn. I wasn't big on the school books, the typical
Yeah.
stuff, but I started my first business at 12. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it was very
Look,
successful. And
hopefully you're his future.
I've had 7 of them that I started from scratch, and that's just how I think. So encourage that. I think it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing, and the fact that he's seen the benefit of giving is a beautiful opportunity as well. So thank you so much. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for reaching out. And I was super excited to get to read a little bit more about you. I studied a little bit so I would have good information on ways to speak to you. But yeah, such an eventful life and your kids. I just think it's super awesome. I was super excited to do this.
Oh, very good. Well, please let me know any way that I can support the mission that you're on. And
Yeah.
I want families to know that there's lots of choices that they get to make. It's not throw up your
Yeah.
hands and feel frustrated. And so I just inspire you to go for it.
Yeah, and what you provide and what you do is a lot different than what I provide and do, even though we share core principles.
Mm,
But I think that's so awesome because you add something that I wasn't innately thinking like going to add, if that makes sense.
mm.
So it adds like another level of like, hey, we all get together in one spot, professional mindset. Like, how do we get our kids there? I think that's beautiful. So thank you again for everything.
You got it. Let me know if there's anything I can do to support you.
Yes, ma'am. And then I'll send you everything over as soon as the link goes through.
You got it. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You as well.
Okay, bye for now.
See ya. And that was our time with Shellee. What a great story she has. What a great background. How impressive it is. How much she pours into her business along with her kids and everything she does. Super excited to have her. Really glad she reached out. She actually reached out to me from one of my coaching videos where I was talking about to be a good coach and a good leader. We first build the person before we build the athlete. And she reached out and she said, "Hey, that kind of stuck. Like, I really appreciate that mindset." So, just for everyone out there, don't be scared to say how you feel and say the things you truly believe in, and to push our athletes and our students and our kids. If we're leading and mentoring and growing, which we are, even if we know we're not, don't be scared to push forward for character more so than result. Because if you have the right character, the result will come. So, as always, Jacob with the Coaches Row. Don't forget to fail up and fail forward, and we'll see you next time.